Mount Vernon boy who battled and beat COVID-19.
May 15th, you come home, Jorden had a fever.
I had the virus.
He only had a 5% chance of surviving. I never cried so much in my life.
I want to introduce y'all to my amazing cousin, Beverly Hutchins. What's going on, Bev?
Hey, how you doing? Hello, everyone.
Good. Hey, hold on one second, Bev. Hey, Lays, are you the host, Lays, or what?
No, you're the host, and Action is the host as well.
Okay, all right. Because I think Michelle S. was trying to get in the room, and she sent me a message.
Got her. I brought her in. She's good.
So, Bev.
Yes.
So, how is Boywanda doing?
Well, right now, Boywanda, he's at therapy. He has therapy 3 days a week. And he has OT and PT. And the reason why he has OT PT now is because from his stroke, his left arm and hand still contracts, and his toes on his left foot. So that's, we didn't realize that until a few weeks ago. And he needs strengthening on his left side, his left legs. He has to learn balance. He forgot how to ride a bike. So we have to retrain him to do all of that again. So that's why he goes to OT and PT. Everything else, thank God, came back. He's a thinker, and he loves to think, and in the beginning it was a little bit slow, but everything eventually came back. So the only things that are still an issue is the contracting left arm and left hand.
Well, Bev, yesterday, I actually watched this video for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I avoid watching it because of how emotional I felt that I would get, because again, our kids have been playing together just, last summer, and, every chance they get. And to kind of see him in that condition for the first time was very tough for me. And definitely, like I said, it got really emotional in seeing it for that. I can only imagine how it was for you and for Greg, and how you guys had to handle this. Can you talk to us a little bit about, Bev, how you as a mom had to basically be strong for him, and then be strong for you, and then and
everyone
else is asking questions, and you're trying to be,
yes.
Because I know Sharon, who's Bev's sister, my other cousin, I know she too. Everybody's just so close. We got a very tight-knit family, and so I know everybody was pulling for Jorden, but
right.
I know that it also too must have wore on you as well. So how was that, Bev?
I'm sorry. I know. It was. I did not realize how close he came to death. They didn't tell me that either. They didn't want to tell us that until it was necessary. But it was until he woke up, and we went through things that were going on. We realized that he had 2 strokes. And then they said to me, that's amazing that he had just 2 strokes, because he only had a 5% chance of surviving. And they told us that, I couldn't believe that. And we never knew that the entire time. They just told us to continue being positive, praying, talking to him, reading to him, playing music for him, just let him know that we were there. I never cried so much in my life. Like, I couldn't even come up with any more tears. That's how much I was crying. Just to see him laying there, this lifeless body, and he's so full of energy, God. He has so much energy. And just to see him there, not being able to do anything, it was very emotional. And then everything was just coming at me. The decisions that I had to make, I didn't have time to think about it. It was, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. And everything happened, but like I said, within 4 days, he went on a ventilator on Tuesday, ECMO machine that night. And the ECMO machine is basically a life support machine that pumps the heart and the lungs for him. And then they said, well, it's working, but what's happening is the heart is pumping blood into the lungs. So his lungs are going to collapse if we don't do heart surgery. And so all of this was within hours. And I said, go ahead. It was life or death. So go ahead, do what needs to be done. And, you know, it happened so fast. Like, I could not think about anything in that moment. Nothing mattered. I forgot about my job. I forgot about the bills. Everything went out the window. My focus was my son and hoping that, you know, and praying that he would wake up and everything would work out and he would be fine. I wouldn't want any parent to suffer like that, to go through what we went through. And what is amazing is that the doctors say that he's a miracle, because they didn't believe that he would bounce back. They didn't think so, but they did everything that they possibly could. And it worked out, you know, for us. And they don't know why it worked out for him, because they did have a few other children who had similar symptoms, not as extreme as Jorden, and they did not make it. So they're trying to figure out why him and why not the others. So
Now,
absolutely.
is I'm going to turn it over to this team, to my crew.
Okay.
If they have any questions of you,
Sure.
please jump in, y'all. There she is. I mean, I know we've been talking about this a lot, and I think it's important that you all can actually hear from somebody who's at least their child survived it.
I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. And I'm a mom, and I've been there watching a child who's helpless. My youngest son, who's 24 now, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 4. And it was just intervention that I just got him to the hospital on time, not knowing what I was getting him to the hospital for. So just hearing your story, I just want to tell you I love you.
Oh, thank you.
You're not alone. And, you know, God bless you, your family, and God bless him. He's just going to be stronger for it all. So I'm just thankful for you, and thank you for sharing your story. I guess I don't have young students, but maybe it might be helpful if there were just specific things that people might be able to look for in their students.
Absolutely. When the first thing that happened was Jorden had a temperature. It wasn't that high at first. It was like 101. But overnight, the temperature spiked to 103. Then it went to 104. It never, even with Tylenol, it never went down. It never went below 103. But the pediatrician told us, as long as his eyes do not turn red and his skin, you know, he's fine. And he lost his appetite, but it was coming back. It wasn't until this happened a Thursday, it wasn't until the Monday that he said it was hard for him to, when he laid down, he couldn't breathe properly. And I did see him the Sunday night put a pillow behind him high up so he can sleep upwards. And I didn't ask, why are you doing that? But the Monday I did ask him, because I saw him again, and he was like, because it's hard for me to breathe when I lay down. And I thought to myself, like, being in a hospital, I was racking my brains as what did I not do, or what did I not see? And, you know, the blame game comes in, and I took so much blame upon myself, because I said, I should have known. He's never laid like that in the bed. If he had a pillow behind him, I should have taken him Sunday. If I took him Sunday, you know, maybe all of this wouldn't have happened. But it wasn't until we got to the hospital that his breathing became even more labored, and then his eyes turned red. I've never seen that in my life. His eyes turned red, his feet, and you know, that was the beginning of everything. So I say, if they're running a temperature that won't go down, if their eyes turn red colored, or his fingers like a strawberry patches on their body, that's alarming. You need to get them to the hospital.
Hey, Miss Beverly, thank you so
Hi.
much. There's a question in the chat. The question is, what did you see in the schools that made you comfortable to send him back?
So for what they did was they moved, his school gave the option of doing virtual or being in person. What I did see for the parents who chose for their children to come in, for Jordan's class, they moved his class into the cafeteria, which is huge. They, of course, set it up 6 feet apart. They have, you know, all the hand sanitizers on the children's desk. They have, when you come into the building, no parents are allowed inside of the building unless it's by appointment only. So it's of a drop off. You come up to the tent and they take their blood pressure. They take their temperature. And if it's good, they go in, you sign your child in, you sign your child out. For recess time, they're like in pods outside. They get a few 10-minute breaks throughout the day to go outside, get fresh air and things like that. And it's just, they don't move. What they do is have the teachers move. The students stay in their classroom or their seat, and the teacher, if they have two different subjects being taught by other teachers, the teachers move, not the students. So that, for me, because at one time the students would have to move from classroom to classroom. So the teachers move, not the students.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. I just want to let you know that in the chat, people are just letting you know that God is good. Thank you for sharing
Yes.
your testimony.
Yes.
And we are so appreciative of you sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have someone who would be interested in you speaking about how parents need to advocate for their children when they do go to the hospital, because it may appear that we're all educated here, so we understand, but some folk are intimidated in giving our community support. So what would be your advice for that, for those families?
I mean, you know your child. We all know ourselves as well. When Jordan went into the hospital, the one question they constantly asked me was, does he have any underlying conditions? Does he have any? No. I can't tell you how many times I said, no, he's a healthy young boy. He's healthy, he's active, he's all of these things. So no, he doesn't have any underlying conditions. And I think because of how severe he was, they felt that something else had to have been going on with him. But truth of the matter that no, nothing else was happening with him. But you have to know your child. I am very attentive with both my boys, and you know, I've always been that way. I can tell when they're sad, when, you know, when someone has done something to them. I watch them, and you know your child, so you have to be the one to not take no for an answer. I remember when he left Westchester Medical Center, Maria Ferrer's Children's Hospital, and went to Blythedale for physical therapy. I remember he was there, and after like 3 weeks there, they wanted to extend his time to another 2 weeks. And I told them, absolutely not. And they said, well, he needs the therapy, he needs the OT, PT. I said, the reason why we're leaving is, I get it, he does need that. But his mental state, he was becoming someone different. He was definitely not as outgoing. He was becoming so quiet and depressed. And I saw that, and I said, the reason why he's becoming this way is because he's here and he doesn't want to be. Now we can do outpatient PT, OT, but we're leaving, whether it's AMA, but we're leaving, you know, which is against medical advice. And they had to sign us out because he was becoming depressed, and I couldn't allow that to happen to him. He didn't want to be there anymore. He wanted to go home. So I advocated for him because I know my child. I know my son. And, I think every parent, you know your child, so that's what you need to do. And don't be afraid, don't be afraid to stand up for your child or for your loved one, anyone.
And everybody, if you don't know, Bev is she is in the medical field, and
Yeah,
so
I'm an administrator. Yeah.
she understands what
how it works,
how it all
Mhm.
works, and
Mhm.
we don't always know the answers, but I think, as she said, we should definitely take away from this conversation that you have to advocate for your children, advocate for your family, because you know them best. And when we have this discussion as principals and as school leaders and educators, why it's important for us to discuss this is because your parents are going to come to you with questions as well. They may not know who to turn to. And I think even as principals, we can be the beacon of light. We can be the source and the resource for them when
Mhm.
needed. And I think it goes hand in hand with everything else we do. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about feeding the community. We talked about, opening food pantries. We talked about hydroponic labs. We talked about all these things. But at the end of the day, our responsibility is something that's greater than just being a principal. We are actually leading the community in ways that nobody else can. And so when parents are coming to us with those concerns and those issues, we should be able to support them and being able to direct them in the right place. And so I asked Bev to come on. I think she's probably talked about it way too many times for her, for her comfort level. But, the fact that she came on to share her story with us, and it kind of aligns with the conversation that we have to be able to connect the community, connect to the community, and help them, help them with answers to things. Like, I think sometimes, especially in the Black community, we consider, we're almost like at times experiments and guinea pigs
Right.
when it comes to that. And so we do have our skepticism about what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
And we had a physician to come on a couple weeks ago who is testing the vaccine now for COVID. And what basically you've shared with us is that her decision to do it was to give us as people of color in our communities an option, to get them the right information, because all the information that's ever been given to us kind of leans a little bit more towards us not trusting what can possibly happen as a result of it. So I think Kyle's question was extremely important, because even me as your cousin, what I'm saying, I have my reservations about it, but that's really because there is conflicting information that's available out there. And so I definitely feel that it's a little bit more complicated for some of us who sometimes think that we're too damn smart to actually read on that stuff. So
Right. Well, if you're in the medical field, if you work in a hospital, nursing home, you definitely get the flu shot. You cannot come into the facility without it, because if you get sick and and come in, just like the COVID, that's how I got sick.
Tell that story, Bev. Yeah, I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere for Jorden. How did Jorden get it?
Jorden got it from me. He got it from me. Greg, my husband, got it from me, and Jalen, my oldest son, got it from me, because I work in a medical facility. They didn't take precaution because everyone. Part of it was, I think, part of it was economical. They didn't want to spend the money on PPEs and things like that. And then when we started losing patients, they realized this was serious. And I lost another administrator. She died from this. She was 52 years old, and she died. And so, and we went home at the same time. So she had underlying issues. Thank God I didn't, but it came from my job. It came from there. And it's amazing, because we all had our flu shots, and we all talked about COVID, and some people took it very lightly. I took it serious because my husband he's older than me, and I was afraid that he would be affected the way Jorden was, and he wasn't. And so, not trusting, I understand, but when something is beneficial to your health, I think you should, for you really should take heed to that.
Again, Bev, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, again, me always trying to tie it right back into our earlier conversation about, as school leaders, our responsibility is to have answers. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Everybody looks to us for all of the answers. And I think we have to begin the process of doing our own research and being willing to be the source of information for our families, because it's getting ready to get worse. I just want you all to just take heed. You know what I'm saying? Take heed, not necessarily of the tragedy of it, but we talk about the triumph, right? We're not spending a whole bunch of time talking about what went wrong with Jorden. We're talking about Jorden now as a young man who is getting his health back, who's moving around, he's eating. He is a success story, and we can look at this from that same lens and said, you know what? Beverly talked about some things that she just didn't know, or things she just ignored. And as principals, I know we've been asked to do so much, and adding the task of physician to your already long job description may not seem fair, but unfortunately, it's not about being fair anymore. This is about really being available to our families and providing those resources.